Now going back to the text, the Shaykh now begins telling us what are the conditions in order to be engaging in the practice of criticizing and praising. He says, Rahimahullah, valuable speech from Imam al-Dhahabi in relation to the issue of criticism and praise. He says, Imam al-Dhahabi, may Allah be pleased with him, 748 Hijri. For those of us who don't know, Imam al-Dhahabi is one of the great scholars of hadith, of tariq, history, fiqh, one of the most stringent and one of the most critical, and at the same time strong memorizers of many subjects, Quran, you name it. He said, and he wrote, the Shaykh said, he wrote strong speech and beautiful principles about this issue. Everyone should keep in front of them when they think about criticism and praise. He wrote in his book, Tadhkiratul Hufadh, volume 1, page 10. Tadhkiratul Hufadh is a book about the memorizers of this ummah, who memorized the hadith and the one for the Quran, the Qur'an. He says, underneath the biography of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, he says, so the truth is that the muhaddith, the scholar of hadith, must be very fearful and cautious of what he does, and he should ask the people of knowledge and cautiousness to aid him when he's clarifying narrations, when is authentic, when it's weak. There is no path to become an expert in the subject of praising people, praising narrators and reports, as well as criticizing the masters of hadith, except after excessive search, examination of this affair, a lot of review, staying up late at night, being intelligent and having taqwa, good deen, sitting with the scholars, being eager and being precise. All those, he says, are needed if you want to engage in this practice. Again, what does he say? You need the qualities of excessive research, examination, reviewing, staying up late at night, being intelligent, having taqwa, having strong religion, sitting a lot with the scholars of Islam, being eager to do good and being precise. Otherwise, if you don't have these qualities, then do as the poet says, leave off writing, you are not from his people, even if your face is covered in ink. Poet, he says the lines, stay away from writing books and authorships, you're not from its people, even if your face was covered in ink. If you just have to put your face on paper, even then you shouldn't, if you're not going to be able to do it the right way. It's a criticism, the one who is not qualified to take on a task. Now the Shaykh says, Imam Dhahabi also said another part of his speech, the following conditions are needed. He says, verily if you find, O reader, that you yourself do not have understanding, truthfulness, good religion, cautiousness, then you should not exhaust yourself. You don't have understanding, truthfulness, good religion, cautiousness. And wara' is to be very cautious. Then if you don't have these qualities, do not exhaust yourself. If you're overcome by disobedience and bigotry towards an opinion or a particular madhab, then by Allah, do not tire yourself out in trying to study or be involved in jarh wa ta'deel. If you know that you are a confused person who is absent-minded, who is negligent of the boundaries of Allah, then save us from yourself. For after a short while, it will become clear your falsehood and your disastrous cheating. As Allah says, and they took flight in their arrogance in the land and their plotting of evil. But the evil plot encompasses only him who makes it. Surah Al-Fatiha, ayah 43. Here the Imam Dhahabi is telling us, if you don't possess certain qualities, understanding, truthfulness, religion, cautiousness, you are someone who is bigoted, your madhab and your opinion, if you are someone who is confused about your deen, doesn't adhere to the hudud of Allah, save us from yourself. Means you are not allowed to do criticism and praise of people. Here, Shaykh Abdul Salam, when he finishes the quote, he says, this speech of the Shaykh clarifies the conditions the people of knowledge have to have or have set down in terms of who can or who deserves to issue criticism and praise. And there are a lot of conditions. See, brothers, one of the problems we have, we will look at Jarh wa Ta'deel, there's many people in the field who are not supposed to be there. Hence why people have become scared of it. Because you see everybody's criticizing and praising. If it's left to the people who are qualified, then their criticism is going to be acceptable because it comes with the right conditions and knowledge. Shaykh says, from those things Imam Dhahabi said, what concerns us is that you should know the means and the reasons for Jarh wa Ta'deel. You have to have ma'rifatul asbab Jarh wa Ta'deel. You have to know what constitutes criticism and what constitutes valid praise. And we're going to talk about that in a second. Why does the Shaykh or Imam, a Shaykh or a person doing this have to know that? He says, obligatory upon the one who places himself in this position to be criticizing and praising, that he knows the means that are justifying a criticism and means that justify praise. Otherwise, there's no consideration for their praise and their criticism. Here we take a benefit that everyone who talks about others or individuals is qualified to do so. In fact, you might even say many people have taken it upon themselves without the qualities. And that's why certain people, when they hear about criticism and praise, they may hear people criticizing people for things which are not even worthy of criticism. And they're taking someone out the sunnah based on something which is not the fundamental things that can take someone out. Or they put someone into the sunnah, and he said someone's a person of sunnah, for very superficial things. Very important, brothers. All of us have to be cautious. If someone were to say you so-and-so upon the sunnah, you need to have knowledge to say, yes, his aqeedah is like this, his beliefs, manhaj is like this, he doesn't do that, you know what you're talking about. And now, the scholars in the past, they put this condition that you have to know the means. Because sometimes you may praise someone for things that are not worthy of being praised. For example, Imam Hafid ibn Hajar, he writes in his book of Hadith, Sciences of Hadith, Nukhbat al-Fikr and Nuzhat al-Nadar, he says that the tazkiyah, the recommendation of one who is an expert, must be given with its means in order for it to be accepted. You must give the asbab. And he says if the means are not given, then it's not accepted. Why? He says because somebody may praise someone based on what is superficially known to him or what is apparent to him من غير ممارسة ولا اختبار, without any expertise and without any kind of knowledge. Example, someone says so-and-so is a person of sunnah, he has a beard. هل يكفي؟ يعني he has a beard, he's a person of sunnah? We wouldn't accept it. Because people bid'ah have beards too. And we all agree, but sometimes this is what happens. Someone may come and say, why is this person good? He prays according to sunnah. Bid'ah, they don't pray according to sunnah. Nowadays you find everyone prays according to the sunnah. So it's not sufficient. We need something usuli, fundamental. Not something which is superficial or secondary or subsidiary. And this is why at the end of the book, Shaykh is going to tell us what makes Ahl Sunnah, and what makes Ahl Bid'ah. Us today, we need to be careful too. You go online, you put in a speaker and say, this person is good. Why? Because he said such and such speech. Did you ever find anyone who said, follow the Quran only, and then you continue to listen to them? You're never going to find someone like that. You're going to find someone online, Quran and Sunnah. They may even say, follow the Salaf, and you're like, mashallah, that's not sufficient. You need more. Because what if the person, as we said, is just saying that, and he has more with them? Ahl Bid'ah, they're not going to expose all that they have with them. So here we see, brothers, when you see criticism and praise, we need to be more critical. Us, we're not engaged in it. We'll talk later. Our job usually is to make naql. We pass on the praise and criticism of scholars. But when the Shaykh praises and criticizes, he's going to tell you why. Not always, as we'll see later, there are rules. But we should know the one who's qualified, he will make a judgment which is appropriate. He has knowledge of what he's doing. But if me and you today see what's going on, when people hear al-Jarh wa Ta'deel, they see amazing things. People removing someone from the Sunnah based on issues of fiqh. وَلَا حَوْلَ وَلَا قُوَّةَ إِلَّا بِاللَّهِ. Going to that level now. And we wonder, is this how the ulama al-Salaf were? They made tabdi' wa tafsiq based on what? On fiqh? Or maybe someone will come and say, so-and-so is not good, he follows a different madhab. All of us will say, are you kidding us? Because today, that wouldn't suffice. Unless, of course, there's more to it. He told me this person has ta'assub and bigotry and extremism. And it's something to look into. But we just said, he's Hanafi. He's Shafi'i. That's sufficient. Imam al-Dhahabi and other scholars, they criticized when people who are lay people get involved in these things, they're putting themselves in harm's way, but also they're falling into the famous saying, as we said, they're walking before they crawl. Or as Imam Dhahabi said it beautifully, وَكَيْفَ يُطِيرُ وَلَمَّا يُرَيِّشْ. How can he fly and he hasn't grown any feathers? How is he flying and he hasn't grown any feathers? Sir Alam Nubala. Underneath the biography of Ibn Hazm, he was talking about some lay people who were huffaz of Quran, he said. Yet they're talking about stuff they don't know. He said, how could they fly? They don't even have feathers. But they have the Quran, he said even. Enough. See, brothers, these topics are very important and we have to be careful. Because imagine today, a novice, a lay person came and was telling you so-and-so is bad, so-and-so is good. And you say, why? And then they tell you something which is not Ahl Sunnah how they do it. You know immediately this person doesn't know anything about the Jarh wa Ta'deel. You shouldn't accept his statement anyways, because he's not qualified. And when an imam does it, it's very different then. When an imam says something, they don't always mention the means and the reasons. Do know, qualified imams, if they say something, it counts. Different between how you treat a lay person's speech and an alim. A benefit connected to this, if even one reputable imam praises someone, it counts. Obviously, if we know the reasons for example, they know this person, and they've said it's on the sunnah, you can benefit from them, that's sufficient for us. But if someone who doesn't know these things is not qualified, that's not what we're looking for. And we have to be careful the way we treat the ulama, the way we treat lay people. Some people treat everyone the same. Means when Adam speaks, they're still trying to reject their statements. Not that easy, brothers. We have to be careful. Ulama have status. And we also need to be careful. The ulama are speaking about these issues. Remember where they're coming from. Are they speaking out of desire? Are they speaking out of personal issues? For the most part, no. Some instances, some may say historically, some cases you can find it could be an issue between two different imams. Those are rarities, right? They happen, but that's not the majority of the criticism, right? Somebody will say, but it happened before. Yes, it did happen, but that doesn't mean that every time a sheikh or an imam said something about someone or has spoken about someone, it's coming from that place. Rather, what it's coming from is from responsibility, from taqwa, from knowledge. Remember, the Prophet ﷺ, he said, and we mentioned the hadith last week, يَحْمِلُ هَذَا الْعِلْمَ مِنْ كُلِّ خَلَفٍ عُدُولُهُ يَنْفَوْنَ عَنْهُ تَأْوِيلُ الْغَالِينَ وَانْتِحَالُ الْمُبْطِلِينَ وَتَأْوِيلُ الْجَاهِلِينَ. There's a hadith, the scholars differed over it. Some of the ulama in the past and present authenticated it. Like Imam Ahmad and Imam al-Albani of our times. This knowledge will be carried in every generation by the trustworthy imams. And what's their job? They're going to refute the extremism of the extremist, the false interpretation of those who are falsely interpreting, and the ignorance of the ignorant. Pay attention, the job of the ulama. This hadith, some of the scholars say, is the hadith for the proof of the ulama of Jarh wa Ta'deel. Means they're doing it out of responsibility. Do you think this imam, when he said so-and-so is misguided, he did it out of something else? He's fearing Allah. And then when he brings you the proof, then we accept it as well. But even if we don't know the proofs, we have to examine which of the categories, and there's more to it, but you have to take it seriously. Some people, they treat the statements of the ulama like the statements of someone on the street. If someone on the street came to you and told you this guy's good, you wouldn't take it. But if someone told you, Shaykh Fulan, so-and-so, who we know, reputable scholar, said in this tape or this book, this guy's bad, you cannot just set it aside. Not allowed, not like that. Nowadays, we have to be wary. And this is why the Shaykh mentioned the point of cautiousness and conditions, so that you know the importance of this topic.